Hello, and welcome to another episode of Big Scratchers, soon to be called something else because I don't really have a good name in mind yet. But anyways, this is a another request by True to Games. It was a good request, and it's been something that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and it's to create a platformer series. And it's going to be a series of probably 5 to 6 videos, and we're going to go step by step learning how to create a platformer game. I should say that it's not going to be, I'm not going to actually share this game to play because a lot of the things that I'm doing on it, it's going to be for an educational purpose. However, I'm gonna be making my own platformer game later on because if I really want to share it, then I want it to have a lot of different functions and it should look good and everything. But so everything I do on here is for education purposes, and yeah, we want to basically learn, how to use the tools that we have within Scratch to actually create a platformer. Also, I'm doing this from scratch. I don't have much preparation, basically no preparation for these projects, this project that I'm doing for platformer game tutorials. So everything I do, you will see. If I make a mistake, you will see it. If I do something right, you will also see that. And I will try my best to explain everything that I'm doing along the way. Okay. So if you really want to learn more about it, so if you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe and and press the like button and have me stand out a little bit in this YouTube ocean. But yeah, let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to pick a better sprite. I don't like this cat anymore. I used to like it when I started, but I don't like it anymore. So it's going to go down here, and I'm going to go here and pick a sprite. Let's actually see what sprite looks best and might work better for a game, for a platformer game. Let's actually go through it. This thing doesn't actually move. Does Gobo move? The ghost, I remember the ghost thingy moved before. Let's see. What else do we have? Llamas, monkey, motorcycle, no. Pico walking. Okay, let's actually do a yeah, let's actually pick Pico as our character. And I'm gonna actually delete my sprite 1 and wait for Pico to be loaded. There's some sort of problem with my internet right now. It's probably because of everybody staying at home and streaming on Netflix that I'm not having the greatest internet right now. But anyways, yeah, okay, finally got it. So Pico's walk cycle is pretty simple, I guess. And the way we go and actually see a walk cycle is by changing the costume to the next costume continuously. So for testing purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and say when space is pressed, then we got to go ahead and do that. Okay, works just fine. Okay, very good. So we have a character that is basically kind of animated for us. We just need to actually go and give that animation some meaning, right? Let's actually go ahead and I'm going to actually tell you a method in Scratch that some might actually not consider when working with movements and stuff like that. We can use this event of when whatever key pressed, but it's kind of clunky and it doesn't work that well. So the better method of actually having characters do and listen to multiple instructions that you give them, like going up and down and left and right, is by having a loop constantly looking for these keys to be pressed, and then basically, have them do the action that you want. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say when the game starts, I'm going to delete this. When the game starts, or when we press green flag, I'm going to go ahead and have a forever loop. And then it's going to forever listen to see whether or not I'm pressing certain buttons. So I say if key pressed. So I'm going to go ahead and say, for example, up arrow, and then I'm going to duplicate this several times. Down arrow, duplicate one more time, right arrow, and left arrow. So there are a couple of things we want to do when these things are pressed. For now, let's actually go ahead and pay attention to right and left arrow, because this is the thing that I want to teach you for the time being, and we will work on the up arrow and down arrow later, because those are basically the they're depending on the velocity, and that's something that I want to teach you later. As a matter of fact, we don't even actually need down arrow, because we're just gonna have a gravity, so I don't need the down arrow, so I'm just gonna throw it out. So here's one mistake that you guys learn. When you're making a platformer, you don't necessarily need a down arrow unless you want to use it for something else other than moving down. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to do is that when I say press the right or left, we want to actually always have the switch costume. So right now, if I press right or left, you can see that it is switching costume. However, we also want to do something else when we are moving right, for example. We want to go ahead and move certain amount of steps, right? So maybe 10 steps, maybe too much. Okay, then let's go ahead and change it to 5 steps. Let's actually try that. Okay, so that looks okay. That looks fine. Maybe just the 10 steps were okay. Also, I want to make Pico a lot smaller. Right now it's too big. Let's actually make it to like size 60. And try that again. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, now I also want to do the same thing with my left arrow, but what I wanted to do is that the thing that it wants to do is to actually point in a different direction first. So when we do the left arrow, we say point to -90. Okay, it should point towards -90. Let's try that. Okay, you see that it is actually going that way. However, it is also turned upside down, right? It is also turned upside down. So also we want, when we're actually moving right, we want it to point to the direction of 90. So let's actually do that. But the problem is right now when we are actually turning the other direction, it's gonna go upside down. Now, the reason for that is that we want this to pay attention to which rotation style it is using. Let's actually put this one right here. If we are using the right-left left-right rotation style, then it is going to actually pay attention to my to my rotation style, and then not just turn upside down, right? Because this is going to say, okay, your rotation, it is going to be basically, it is going to pay attention to the left side and the right side. So turning -90 degrees means that you got to turn to the left side. That's all it's saying here. Also, we wanted to move 10 steps. So do that. Okay, so now we can move 2 directions, right? We can move 2 directions, and the movement looks very, very nice and smooth, right? Very, very nice and smooth. Now, we also want to implement this moving up part, right? Moving up. Now, how do we make it actually, why does it even like, why should it even like do something, right? Like, why should it even go up? First of all, we should have a ground level that will always keep track of the, where this little character is standing. I'm just going to call it Pico from now, where Pico is standing. So let's actually go ahead and create a ground level. I'm going to do it by creating a sprite. And just go and, just draw a ground level like that. And I'm just going to put it down here. Okay. So we want to define something for this little sprite. First of all, we want this sprite to always actually go down. But in what case? Well, in the case that it is not touching this little thing. Okay, in the case that it is not touching this little ground level. So, or this color, basically. Okay, so later when we're actually making platforms, we want to also make our platforms to be this color so that when it's actually touching our character, it is gonna, it is not gonna allow it to go down. So let's go ahead and create another condition that is gonna basically always keep track of whether or not I'm actually touching the ground. So I'm gonna say on flag start forever, I'm gonna go ahead and say set y, or change y, not set y, change y by -1. But I want this only to happen if it is not touching this thing, if it's not touching this color. So I'm going to get a not, I'm going to get a touching color, I'm going to pick a color from here, pick right in the middle right here. Okay, I'm going to say if not touching, let's go ahead and get if statement. If not touching that color, then its y should change by 1, right? So I actually put Pico up here, unless it start. You'll see that it's going to go down, right? But then as soon as it touches the ground level, it should stop. And you can see that it has stopped now. Now we can move, and it's going to move on the ground level, right? Now, of course, this change y by 1 might be a little bit too little. So let's just change to -5. Okay. Or even a little bit more. -10. But I'm going to actually, we're going to work on this. This is not the end of the gravity. This is definitely not the end for gravity. Okay. Now, I want to say, when I press the up button, basically what I want to do is that I want to change my y by, for example, let's say maybe 10 or 15, whatever. But basically, I want to do it gradually, and I want to then, of course, allow this gravity to do its job and then bring it back down. So I'm going to say if up arrow is pressed, then I'm just going to go ahead and repeat, for example, 20 times. Let's just do it for 20 times, just for demonstration purposes again. And I'm going to say that I want my Pico to go up. So change y by. Again, let's just do it by, let's just do it 2. Let's just choose 2 for now. So actually work on that. So you can see that it is actually trying to go up. If I press, you see when I'm pressing the up button, what is happening is that it's trying to go up, but then each time it is not touching that thing, right? It is not touching that thing. It's gonna basically go back down, right? It's gonna go back down. Now, so there are a couple of ways we can actually solve this issue. And it's that I can make another variable. And I'm just going to say going up. Okay. And my caps lock is on, so it doesn't have to be capital. Just going to say going up. And what I'm going to do is that inside of here, first, I'm going to go ahead and say going up, set going up to 1. But then when it finishes going up, I'm going to go ahead and say set going up to 0. And I'm going to have this one look at another condition, and it's whether or not going up to 1 is 1 or 0. We wanted to say if going up is not, or basically if it's 0, then we want this to work. So I'm going to say equal to 0, and I'm going to go ahead and get my going up, and I'm going to get another AND operator. So what does AND operator do? Basically, AND operator looks at two sides, two conditions on two sides. Both of these conditions must be true for one whole condition to be considered true. So let's put this one right in here, and actually put this one right in here. So in this case, both these conditions must be right in order for this to work. Okay? Let's actually put it back in here now. Oops. And let's start the game again. And you can see now that I can actually go up, right? Of course, the movement is not that great right now because I'm going to actually change it in a second. But it's not getting stuck down there anymore. It's not getting stuck down there anymore, right? So, but why is the movement like that? Why does it look so terrible? Well, because of the velocity that we are having a problem with. Let's create a variable called y velocity. So yv. Now, you got to understand that when we are jumping up, our energy in the very beginning is a lot, but as we're going up, that energy or that velocity is going to become less and less. But it's the opposite when we are actually coming back down. Our energy is very little, but then as we go down, it is going to become more and more. So this is the exact thing that we actually need to work on. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to first, in the very beginning, when we are on the ground, I'm going to go ahead and say set yv to, for example, 10. And we're going to change this y by yv, by the y velocity. But in each time it repeats, we're going to go ahead and take away from that number. So let's actually change this one to 10 as well. And then each time we change the y velocity by -1. Okay. Now let's look at how the upwards movement looks like. Okay. You can see that now my up movement looks a lot better, right? Because now I'm actually considering how the power is going to change each time I actually go up, okay? Now, we want to do the same thing with our y velocity with the gravity, basically. So what we do is that in the very beginning, we're going to go ahead and set our y velocity to a small number, but then we're going to go ahead and increase it. We're going to go ahead and increase it. So, or actually, let's actually have it right there. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to say use y velocity here, but then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say actually, so it's going to go from a small number to a bigger number, right? So I will say change yv to by 1, basically. So let's try that again. Oops. Okay, we're coming back down, right? So this is going to be -1. Okay. Now this is going crazy a little bit. We want to say if it's not. Let me see. Okay, now this is another mistake that I'm making somewhere that I'm not quite realizing. Okay, I'm saying that this should use yv if it's not touching, and my going up is 0. Okay, so it's not touching and my going up is 0. Okay, then in that case, it's gonna go ahead and decrease that by 1, right? Okay, let's actually take this one out. Okay, this is gonna still go crazy. The reason for that going crazy is that my y velocity right in the very beginning, it has not changed. So let's actually set my y velocity in the very beginning to 10. Let's actually do that. Now, when I jump, okay, it's just going to basically stay up. All right, it is staying up, and it's not moving at all. Now, the reason for that is that I'm not actually changing this y by anything. I'm changing it by 0, right? So I need to change that number now. So let's actually change that. Okay, now you can see it is working just fine. Okay, you can see that now my movement, it is much better, okay? And it looks more kind of fluid, kind of a fluid movement. And I have a double jump and triple jumps as well. That's great. Okay, but of course we can actually, you know, get rid of that double jump and triple jumps as well. You know, that's not the biggest problem. But yeah, anyways, this is the kind of thing that you can get, you know. But of course, there is one problem that we're seeing right now, is that if I'm moving forward and I'm jumping, actually I don't have the ability to do 2 of them at the same time. So I want to actually change that. I don't want that to be in that situation. So I'm going to actually leave that for the next tutorial. But for now, I think it's a good starting point to actually get your game going, and you know, create something that is at least a little bit fluid, you know, from the very get-go. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel. I will have this project improved as we go, and hopefully by the end of this series of tutorials, we're gonna have you know, a good platformer game that you can actually enjoy and maybe share with your friends. But do subscribe and do like the video. I'd really appreciate it. But in any case, until next time, see you. Bye bye.